on this edition of NewsTeam Boulder for Thursday, October 21st, 2021. Aftermath of the fire this week at the condos on Pearl Street. Students lose favorite businesses on the Hill, and caffeine consumption. How much is too much? All of this and more coming up on NewsTeam Boulder. A major fire engulfs a condo on Pearl Street Tuesday. In the days to come, Boulder police will sort through the wreckage to ensure that there were no fatalities. Hello and welcome to NewsTeam Boulder. I'm Catherine Zamora. On Wednesday, police said that they believe all residents are accounted for in the fire that engulfed the Whittier apartments in the 2300 block of Pearl Street. Among the residents who lost their homes are CU students. NewsTeam Boulder, Jessica McCauley, was on the scene and tells us what CU is doing to support their campus community in times of need.
I'm on the scene right now at the Whittier condominiums located right off of Pearl Street and 23rd Street. This building behind me is a home to many and it housed around 81 units. But for those of you who did not live here, this was just another apartment building that you would pass by on your commute to school or your commute to work. Unfortunately, around 3:30 a.m., Boulder Fire Department was dispatched to come here on reports that a blaze had broken out on the scene right behind me. In a press conference Tuesday afternoon around 3:30 p.m., a Boulder spokesperson reported that all 81 units in the apartment complex right behind me had been impacted by the fire. While no injuries had been reported, some tenants that were residing on the second and third floor had jumped out of their windows to get to safety and avoid the flames. It was reported that 10 CU students' living situations were impacted by this fire. Assistant Vice Chancellor of Belonging and Engagement, Devin Kramer, explains how the Division of Student Affairs is taking action and prioritizing CU students.
We do have the ability to provide some temporary housing. So in this particular situation, we were able to offer 1 week of housing at no cost on campus, either through the residence halls or through Bear Creek, or grad and family housing to students. So they can stay with us for 1 week at no cost, and then we'll be flexible and work with them as they're finding permanent accommodations. We're waiving any fees for student legal services. So if they need to navigate new leases or navigate insurance companies, that'll be at no cost to them.
With resources like the Student Emergency Fund, Buff Pantry, Student Legal Services, the Office of Financial Aid, and Norland Library, students are able to get funding for housing, food, waived legal services, new books, and loaner laptops so they can stay above water during such trying times.
A lot of folks have been reaching out to us. How can I help? How can I, donating food to the food pantry will not only help these students that are impacted by the fire, but we have a lot of students who have food insecurities. And so a donation, just a couple cans of non-perishable food items, some toiletries, that type of thing is always appreciated.
Still, there's been no indication of what caused the fire. This has been Jessica McCauley reporting for NewsTeam Boulder.
Disasters can adversely affect students and their academic careers. If you know of a student looking for support, consider donating to the Student Emergency Fund at this website. A Fort Collins woman was officially charged with the killing of a Longmont mail carrier last week. Devin Schreiner was charged Tuesday with first-degree murder in the shooting of her ex-boyfriend, Jason Schaefer, last Wednesday. Schaefer was delivering mail at the neighborhood boxes at Heather Hill Street near Renaissance Drive. He was shot multiple times and died at the scene. A second person in connection to Schaefer's murder was also arrested. Andrew James Ritchie of Loveland is suspected in complicity to commit murder. According to police affidavits, cell phone records show Ritchie followed Schaefer on his mail route and was in contact with Schreiner much of the morning prior to the shooting. Schreiner's next day in court is January 10th, which will determine if there is probable cause for the case to continue. A person was seriously injured following the game against Arizona this past Saturday. Police say that the assault happened just outside of the stadium and are asking any witnesses to contact CU Boulder Police. CU's offensive lineman Carson Lee will have a preliminary hearing on October 25th after being charged with felony assault. Head coach Carl Durrell says Lee will not be playing but is still on the team. On Monday, October 11th, CU Student Government's Legislative Council Executive Committee announced that they would go on strike after months of confronting systemic racial issues within CU Boulder's administration and not getting a response. Kaylee Elkin has the story.
With CU Boulder CUSG Legislative Council Executive Committee coming out of a strike, student groups at the university are wondering what this means and how they will be affected. Students on campus who are involved in various clubs and organizations are questioning the strike that took place and the communication that circled from it. They are unsure of the consequences it will have for the student body. The CU Independent senior news editor Henry Larson tells us what this strike means for funding.
And some discrepancies between what they've said and what the executive branch and the judicial branch of CUSG have said, meaning that it seems like there may still be some issues with funding and appointing chairs to these joint boards that will impair their function until there's a resolution.
The bold chairs how the lack of transparency and communication from CUSG could affect other places on campus.
The UMC and the rec and possibly even homecoming are things that could affect all students with this strike, since CUSG is in charge of the funding.
The door of information and the responses about the strike seems to be closed. As a student, it makes you question the transparency of our leaders at the university and what precedent this sets for the remainder of the semester.
There are communication issues between the three branches that need to be addressed so something like this doesn't happen again, as well as just transparency to us as the media and the student body that they serve.
CUSG refused to comment on action of the strike. Student organizations have been struggling to uncover the truth behind it. You can't help to wonder how these leaders will handle the rest of the semester for students. The hope is to restore communication and transparency to the student body. But how can one look to someone for answers who does not wish to speak on behalf of their actions? I'm Kaylee Elkin, NewsTeam Boulder.
A Republican filibuster blocks what may be the last push for voting rights legislation this year. The Freedom to Vote Act failed Wednesday despite a compromise bill proposed by Democrats, led in part by Senator Joe Manchin. Democrats say the voting legislation is needed to counter many Republican-led efforts in states to make voting more difficult, especially for people of color. The Freedom to Vote Act would have made Election Day a national holiday and set minimum standards for early voting, mail-in ballots, and voter identification. After Wednesday's vote, Vice President Kamala Harris says that Democrats won't be deterred.
So we're not going to give up. We have never given up, those of us who have fought for the right of every American to be able to express their voice through their vote. We're going to continue to do the work.
Voting out of state can be confusing, but don't worry. NewsTeam Boulder's Jess McCauley has everything you need to know about absentee ballots.
Election season is back, buffs. We all have the right to vote, but it can be hard to know how to when you're an out-of-state student. CU's fall census data reported nearly 60% of their students are Colorado residents. That leaves a whopping 40% of out-of-state students. Here are some things to consider when exercising your voting rights. For out-of-state students living in Colorado temporarily, first, make sure you're registered to vote. You can do this online or fill out the registration form, print it, and then mail it to the Civic Center listed online by your home state. Next, research online whether your home state permits absentee voting. If all signs point to yes, you should be eligible to vote by mail. Remember to mail your ballots by Monday, October 25th to ensure your vote gets counted.
Coming up, businesses that have been student favorites for many years close their doors for the last time. And later, should you be rethinking that second, third, or even fourth cup of coffee? Some caffeine concerns you don't want to miss. Welcome back, buffs. Break out that planner because we've got some dates that you definitely don't want to miss. Registration for the spring semester begins November 1st. Believe it or not, that's only a few weeks away. No one likes to be on wait lists, so be sure to check your emails for your specific day and time. Check your degree audit and meet with your advisor to make sure you're on track to graduate. Try to do this before registration so you're not stuck taking extra classes this summer. Homecoming weekend kicks off November 4th with events all weekend, including a football game against Oregon State on Saturday. It's an end of an era for the Boulder community as beloved icons close for good. NewsTeam's Georgia Worrell tells the story.
This month, All businesses in the 1300th block of the Hill in Boulder, or University Hill Plaza, will be closing down for good. Among these iconic businesses leaving are Bova's, Dot's Diners, and Cosmos Pizza on the Hill, among others. For many CU Boulder students, including Isabella Colmenares, the closing of these businesses is a shock to their daily routine.
So for me, the closing of Bova's and Cosmos honestly really hit really hard to home. I would go to Cosmos every day after class, grab a slice on my way home, and Bova's all the time when I just needed a quick snack, a drink.
Walking across the street from campus to grab Cosmos has been a CU staple for 20 years. Last week, the Cosmos team and the CU community said see you later. According to Ryan Christ, Assistant Vice Chancellor of Alumni Relations, the end of this block of businesses is, in a sense, the end of an era.
A lot of those affected the experience for many students and alums during their time here. The convenience of it being right across the street, the value, grabbing a slice at Cosmos with, of course, the spicy ranch, because everybody loves that. We're going to lose a whole bunch of businesses that have been there for quite a while, and many of our alums and, of course, a lot of our current students have frequented those locations for a very long time.
For Colmenares, a senior at CU, this transition makes her feel sorry for the future generations of CU who will never experience the familiarity of University Hill Plaza.
This really makes me sad that the freshmen, the incoming freshmen, and even some of the sophomores won't really get to experience what the magic of these places. It kind of just brings us all together. I can't imagine my time at CU without them.
Without the University Hill Plaza, the Hill will never be the same.
Coming up next, our weather forecast for the weekend. Is sweater weather here to stay? Don't go away.
Después de unos días fríos estaremos esperando un fin de semana cálido. NOAA's Climate Prediction Center anunció que el fenómeno denominado como la Niña se quedará por segundo año consecutivo. La Niña es un patrón climático que comienza en el Océano Pacífico. El agua tibia del océano y las nubes se mueven hacia el oeste durante la Niña, generando más lluvias de lo normal en lugares como Indonesia y Australia. En nuestro país generará temperaturas más secas y calientes de lo habitual. Se espera que la Niña permanezca este invierno desde diciembre hasta febrero. Para este jueves nos espera un día mayormente soleado, con temperaturas a la alta de 67 grados. Para esta noche la temperatura a la baja se acerca a los 39 grados. Nuestro índice de calidad de aire es de 15. En general, nuestro estado estará contando con muy buenas condiciones de calidad de aire. Como ya lo veníamos esperando, Colorado tendrá un poco de temperaturas cálidas durante este fin de semana. Se espera que las temperaturas suban alrededor de 5 a 10 grados. Nuestras temperaturas estarán oscilando alrededor de los 70 grados y a la alta y alrededor de los 30 grados a la baja. Algunos de los sistemas de baja presión estarán pasando por nuestro país, ocasionando tormentas y vientos en algunas áreas. En la costa oeste se estarán esperando fuertes lluvias. En la costa oeste se estarán esperando fuertes lluvias y nieve. En la parte del centro, este sistema de baja presión traerá algunas lluvias y temperaturas un poco cálidas. El área de Texas estará esperando granizo y fuertes vientos. En la costa este se esperarán temperaturas moderadamente cálidas, con probabilidades de tormentas. Las temperaturas a la alta andarán alrededor de los 90 grados y 50 grados. La parte sur es la que estará esperando las temperaturas más cálidas. Las temperaturas a la baja estarán alrededor de los 30 y 50 grados. La parte central del país es la que esperará temperaturas más bajas. Para mañana nos esperan temperaturas a la alta de alrededor a los 71 grados. El día estará mayormente soleado con temperaturas por la noche de alrededor a los 41 grados. El viernes nos esperan temperaturas de alrededor de los 71 grados a la alta y 41 grados a la baja, con un día mayormente soleado. El día sábado estará parcialmente soleado con temperaturas de alrededor a los 67 grados a la alta y 42 a la baja. Para el día domingo, el día estará mayormente soleado con temperaturas que van desde los 65 grados a la alta y 39 a la baja. Finalmente, para este lunes nos espera un día mayormente soleado con una baja probabilidad de lluvias por la noche. Las temperaturas andarán alrededor de los 72 grados a la alta y alrededor de los 44 grados a la baja. Ya estamos empezando a sentir temperaturas frías, especialmente durante las tardes y en las mañanas muy temprano. Con la llegada del invierno se esperan algunos días con temperaturas extremadamente bajas. Durante estos periodos con temperaturas bajo cero, nuestro cuerpo hace todo lo posible por mantener nuestra cabeza y órganos internos calientes. Pero esto lo hace a la expensa de nuestras partes externas del cuerpo, como por ejemplo nuestros dedos de las manos y pies, orejas y hasta la punta de la nariz. Si estas partes de nuestro cuerpo se encuentran expuestas a estas temperaturas por periodos largos de tiempo, podemos sufrir de congelación. NewsTeam Boulder Faye Callahan produjo un breve video explicando todo acerca de esta peligrosa condición de congelación.
Coming up after this break, an outbreak of salmonella leads to a national recall. And how much is too much for caffeinated beverages? Stay tuned. Ski season starts now, and NewsTeam's Kaylee Elkin shares some tips that can make or break that ski trip.
Ski season is almost here. With winter approaching and the slopes ready to open, here are some tips on how to survive driving this season. First, to avoid traffic and potential harms on the road, leave early to and from the slopes. Second, leave even later so you can miss the traffic. Next, stay overnight in the mountains. And lastly, ski on the weekdays so you can avoid large crowds. However, if you decide that driving is not for you, CU Boulder has the ski bus or snow staying RTD program to make sure you get to and from the mountains safely.
If you're not sure where your onions came from, then it's safer to throw them out. Red, white, and yellow onions from Mexico have been linked to over 650 cases of salmonella, and nearly 130 people have been hospitalized so far. Ditch those onions, it's better to be safe than sorry. College students feel like there's not enough time in the day to complete their schoolwork on top of jobs and extracurriculars. That's why caffeine has become a college student's best friend. But not everyone's aware of its effects. NewsTeam Boulder's Faye Callahan tells us more.
Students are always on the move and checking the clock to make sure they are meeting deadlines, getting to work on time, or even going to extracurriculars. Many students feel that there just isn't enough time in the day to get everything completed. That's why they turn to caffeine, which is considered the world's most widely consumed psychoactive drug. Students fill the lines at local coffee shops on and off campus to get their day started. But it doesn't stop at caffeine. Many turn to energy drinks as well. College students are becoming more dependent on caffeinated beverages, but don't understand the serious risks that come with each drink.
Caffeine is actually a vasoconstrictant. So what it does is it causes the narrowing of blood vessels, and then in turn can cause paroxysmal tachycardia, and can cause which is a higher heart rate, or increased blood pressure, which can cause anxiety.
There are many ups and downs to drinking caffeinated beverages, but everything comes in moderation. Campuses all over the country provide access to caffeine for students. CU Boulder has many options on campus where a student can stop in and pick up a caffeinated beverage. Senior Nicole Natrich is just one of the many college students who relies on caffeine to get her through the busy day.
I wake up, I have a cup of coffee, preferably one of these, and throughout the day I have 1 to 2, maybe 3 Red Bulls if it's a tough day. They help me get through school, work, and other activities, and they honestly just really help me achieve everything I need to get done in the day.
College students admit the busier the schedule, the more caffeine they are intaking. So, on average, the student is having around 3 or more cups a day.
We're always on the move, and a cup of coffee can be a great way to get us through the day. But when we're thinking about our second or third cup, maybe it's time to just throw that away. Everything in moderation. I'm Faye Callahan reporting for NewsTeam Boulder.
That's it for this edition of NewsTeam Boulder. This show is produced by journalism students at the University of Colorado in the College of Media, Communication, and Information. You can find us on YouTube and on Twitter at NewsTeam Boulder. I'm Catherine Samora. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.